Once upon a time, in a charming village nestled deep within the lush valleys of Nepal, there lived a young man named Rohan. He was known throughout the village for his remarkable ability to remain calm and composed in even the most challenging situations. While others were swept away by emotions, anger, sorrow, fear, Rohan remained unmoved, as though he was free from the suffering that plagued others. Curious about his extraordinary balance, the villagers finally gathered the courage to ask him, "Rohan, how do you remain so unaffected, no matter what happens?" With a gentle smile, Rohan replied, "Let me share my story and the teachings that have guided me on this path." Many years ago, when Rohan was just a boy, he often found himself overwhelmed by the storms of emotion that raged within him. Anger, fear, disappointment, each day seemed like a battle against forces he could not control. He longed for peace but did not know where to find it. One afternoon, after an argument with his father, Rohan stormed out of his house and ran into the dense forest that surrounded his village. He ran without direction, blinded by frustration, until his legs gave way beneath him. Panting and exhausted, he found himself at the entrance of a secluded cave, hidden behind a curtain of ivy and moss. Inside the cave, an old monk sat in deep meditation. His presence exuded an air of tranquility so profound that the very space around him seemed untouched by time. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of sandalwood, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the distant chirping of birds. Intrigued, Rohan sat quietly, watching. Minutes turned into hours, yet the monk remained motionless, his breath so subtle it was as if he had become one with the universe. Just as the sun began its descent beyond the mountains, the monk finally opened his eyes and looked at the boy with a gaze as deep as the ocean. "Young one," the monk said with a serene smile, "I see the storms of emotions raging within you." Rohan hesitated before nodding. "Yes, venerable monk. I find it difficult to control my emotions, especially when life is unkind." His voice wavered, revealing the turmoil within him. The monk studied Rohan for a moment, then gestured for him to sit beside him on the cool stone floor. "Let me teach you the path to true emotional balance," he said gently. "But first, tell me, why do you suffer?" Rohan frowned, caught off guard by the question. "Because things do not go my way. Because people do not understand me. Because the world is unfair." The monk chuckled softly. "Ah, so you believe your suffering comes from the world outside?" He picked up a small, smooth pebble and dropped it into a nearby pool of water. Ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection of the sky above. "What do you see?" he asked. Rohan peered into the water. "Ripples," he answered simply. The monk nodded. "And what caused them?" "The pebble," Rohan said, wondering where this was going. The monk smiled knowingly. "No, young one. The disturbance comes from your reaction to the pebble, not the pebble itself. The world will always throw stones into the waters of your life. But if your mind is still, like a deep, undisturbed lake, no ripple can shake you." Rohan sat in silence, contemplating the lesson hidden in those words. Something inside him stirred, an unfamiliar yet comforting realization. "Do you wish to learn how to still your waters?" the monk asked. Rohan nodded eagerly. "Yes, master. Teach me." And so, the lessons began. The monk's first teaching was the practice of mindfulness. "Observe your thoughts and emotions," he instructed, "but do not judge them. Let them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky." At first, this was difficult for Rohan. His thoughts overwhelmed him. Whenever he tried to focus, his mind became louder, memories of past regrets, worries about the future, the sting of harsh words spoken by others. But the monk gently guided him. "Close your eyes," the monk said one evening, as the orange hues of sunset painted the horizon. "Breathe in. Feel the air entering your lungs. Breathe out. Let go of everything." Rohan did as he was told, but distractions kept creeping in. The rustling leaves, the distant sound of villagers, the echo of his own doubts. The monk smiled. "Now, listen to the sounds, but do not chase them. Let them pass through you like the wind through the trees." Rohan tried again. Slowly, he began to notice a shift. Instead of getting caught up in every sound and thought, he simply observed them, acknowledging their presence without clinging to them. It was as if he was sitting on the riverbank, watching the water flow by, instead of being swept away by the current. Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." Rohan embraced this wisdom, realizing that most of his emotional turmoil came from clinging to the past or worrying about the future. One day, as he meditated by a quiet pond, he noticed something remarkable. The water reflected the sky perfectly, until he threw a stone into it. Ripples distorted the image, just as his thoughts had often distorted his perception of reality. He finally understood, emotions and thoughts were like ripples. The more he reacted, the more disturbed his mind became. But if he simply observed without resistance, the waters would settle, and clarity would return. From that moment, he practiced the art of observation daily. Whether he felt anger, sadness, or fear, he no longer fought against them. He simply watched, and like passing clouds, they faded away. And so, the first step of his transformation had begun. "Attachment is the root of suffering," the monk said as he traced patterns in the sand. "The more you cling, the more pain you invite." Rohan was confused. "But isn't attachment natural? Don't we need to care about things?" The monk smiled. "Caring is not attachment. Love is not possession. True freedom comes when you can embrace without clinging." He handed Rohan a cup of water. "Hold it tightly." Rohan did, and soon, water began to spill over. "Now, hold it gently." This time, the water remained still. Rohan's eyes widened. "I see. The tighter I hold, the more I lose." The monk nodded. Detachment is not about not feeling, it is about feeling deeply, without being controlled by it. Over the following weeks, Rohan practiced releasing his grip on expectations. He learned to appreciate moments without fearing their end. He loved without trying to possess. He let go of grudges and embraced the present fully. With each passing day, he felt lighter. The burdens of the past no longer chained him, and the anxieties of the future no longer haunted him. And so, he took another step toward emotional freedom. Many mistake emotional detachment for coldness, the monk said one day, as he and Rohan sat by the riverbank, watching the gentle flow of water. But true strength lies in understanding and compassion. A wise heart is not hardened, it is open yet unshaken. Rohan listened intently, the weight of these words sinking deep into his consciousness. He had always thought that emotional control meant suppressing feelings, but the monk's teachings revealed a different truth, one that resonated within him like the echo of a temple bell. Determined to apply what he had learned, Rohan began helping the villagers in their struggles, not by absorbing their pain, but by offering them wisdom and a listening ear. He encountered a grieving mother who had lost her child, a farmer drowning in despair after a failed harvest, and a young man consumed by anger over a betrayal. Instead of trying to take away their suffering or reacting emotionally, Rohan simply listened with presence, offering guidance without attachment. One day, a villager, enraged over a dispute, stormed up to Rohan and demanded, "Tell me, why should I not retaliate when someone wrongs me? Why should I not give back the pain I receive?" Rohan met his fiery gaze with calmness and asked, "If a man hands you a burning coal, and you grasp it tightly to throw it back at him, who suffers first?" The man was taken aback. I would burn myself first." Rohan nodded. And so it is with anger. When we cling to it, we are the first to suffer. But if we choose to let it go, we remain untouched by its flames. The man fell silent, contemplating this wisdom. Buddha taught, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. These words became the foundation of Rohan's actions. He did not turn away from those in pain, nor did he allow himself to be consumed by their suffering. He remained steady like a great tree, offering shade to the weary, yet unmoved by the storms that passed through. As time went on, people came to him not because he had all the answers, but because he had become a presence of peace. He embodied the truth that emotional mastery is not about shutting down, it is about rising above. It is about seeing the chaos of the world, yet choosing to respond with wisdom, kindness, and unwavering strength. And in that, Rohan found a deeper freedom than he had ever known. Years passed, and Rohan became a pillar of wisdom in the village. People sought his guidance not because he had all the answers, but because he had learned the rare art of seeing clearly amid chaos. His presence was a steady flame, a beacon of calm in an ever-changing world. One day, a terrible storm swept through the valley, its howling winds uprooting trees and its torrential rain flooding the fields. Homes were torn apart, crops lay in ruins, and the villagers, gripped by fear and despair, gathered in the village square. Their faces were etched with worry. How would they recover from such devastation? Yet, in the midst of their panic, Rohan remained steady. He stood before them, his gaze unwavering, his voice calm as the morning sun after a long night. Emotions will come, he reminded them, but they do not define us. Fear may whisper that all is lost, grief may weigh heavy on our hearts, but neither fear nor grief can build what has fallen. Only our actions can do that. Let us focus on what we can do. His words, simple yet profound, spread through the crowd like a ripple across still water. One by one, the villagers began to breathe easier. The weight of despair lessened, not because their problems had vanished, but because they now saw that their suffering did not have to paralyze them. With newfound resolve, they picked up the broken pieces, not just of their homes, but of their spirits. The elders organized shelter for those who had lost everything, the farmers gathered what seeds they could salvage, and the children, instead of crying, helped carry supplies with bright determination in their eyes. As they worked, something incredible happened. The devastation, once a symbol of loss, became a testament to their resilience. Where there had been sorrow, there was now unity. Where there had been despair, there was now hope. Rohan watched quietly, a gentle smile on his lips. He had not lifted a single stone, yet he had helped rebuild something far greater. Not just houses. Not just fields. But hearts. As time went on, Rohan felt a deeper calling, a pull towards something beyond the village, beyond what he had already learned. Though he had mastered calmness in the face of adversity, he sensed there was still more to uncover, more to understand about the nature of the mind and the depths of emotional freedom. With the villagers' blessings, he set out on a journey to the distant Himalayas, where legends spoke of ancient monasteries hidden in the clouds, places where wisdom had been preserved for centuries. After weeks of arduous travel, crossing rugged mountain paths, braving icy winds, and pushing through the thin air, he arrived at the gates of a secluded monastery, its golden rooftops glistening under the crisp morning sun. There, he met Master Li, a monk whose presence radiated an even deeper stillness than Rohan had ever known. Unlike the first monk he had met, whose lessons had taught him control, Master Li's lessons were about something even greater: understanding. True emotional balance, Master Li said one evening as they sat overlooking the snow-capped peaks, is not about suppressing emotions, but about recognizing their roots. When we understand suffering, we transcend it. Rohan listened intently. But how does one truly understand suffering? He asked. Master Li picked up a candle and lit it. Tell me, what do you see? A flame, Rohan answered. And what keeps the flame alive? Rohan hesitated. Then answered, the wick and the wax. The master nodded. Just as this flame is fueled by the wax, emotions are fueled by our attachments, our desires, our fears. If we do not understand the fuel, we will always be consumed by the fire. These words resonated deeply with Rohan. He realized that all his life, he had been learning to still the waters of his mind, but now, he needed to understand what created the ripples in the first place. And so, he devoted himself to even deeper meditation. He sat in the quiet halls of the monastery, observing his own thoughts, his fears, his past wounds. Memories surfaced, the anger he had once felt toward his father, the pain of rejection, the longing for validation. He did not push them away. He did not fight them. Instead, he looked at them with gentle curiosity, peeling away their layers, understanding their roots. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. Slowly, he came to see that emotions were not enemies to be defeated, nor chains to be broken. They were simply visitors, passing through the house of the mind. And the key to peace was not to barricade the doors, but to welcome them, understand them, and let them go. In time, Rohan realized that true strength came not from resisting emotions, but from understanding and accepting them. Only by embracing their nature could one truly be free. When Rohan finally returned to his village, the people saw that he had changed. He radiated peace, an unshakable serenity. He shared his new insights, teaching the villagers to embrace their emotions without being ruled by them. The village flourished, becoming a sanctuary of wisdom. Word of Rohan's teaching spread far and wide, drawing seekers from all corners of the world. As Rohan grew older, he gathered the villagers one last time. Sitting beneath the ancient Bodhi tree, he spoke his final words: "My friends, emotional mastery is not about eliminating feelings, but about understanding them. Embrace life with awareness, respond with wisdom, and you will find peace." With a serene smile, Rohan closed his eyes, his legacy forever etched in the hearts of those he touched. His story lived on, reminding the world that the path to emotional balance lies not in suppression, but in mindfulness, compassion, and the wisdom to let emotions flow like the wind, never clinging, never resisting, simply allowing them to pass. So, my dear listener, if you seek to become emotionless, remember, the goal is not to shut down your heart, but to free it. To rise above turmoil, to see with clarity, and to act with wisdom. Let go of what you cannot control. Embrace the present. And in doing so, you will discover a strength greater than any emotion. If this story has resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Lotus Insight, where wisdom meets transformation. Until next time, may you walk the path of peace and understanding.